without it. Thank you, Mr.
Andrew Williams.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Well done. Mr. Speaker, I take a call on behalf of New Zealand First on the Exclusive Economic Zone bill. We have said in this House, New Zealand First will be supporting this bill and supporting the government with this legislation. I don't intend to take a long call on this, as it's been stated on 3 or 4 occasions now in this House, but we feel this legislation is long overdue in terms of our 200-mile limit. We have the 5th largest economic zone in the world, ocean zone, and therefore without this legislation it certainly does not have the necessary sanctions on it and the necessary legislation on it to ensure that the activities out in that zone are being monitored by this sovereign nation. I want to congratulate the Minister and the officials for this extensive legislation. It came before the Local Government Environment Committee nearly half a year ago, and it's been an extensive piece of work. It's a very hefty document. We had a huge amount of input from the officials and from the Parliamentary Council, from the Ministry of the Environment, from the Environmental Protection Authority, and many very, very good submissions on the bill from a huge number of organisations, and much of that was taken up. It was interesting that a huge amount of the recommendations and the submissions that came through, if it wasn't taken up in its entirety, there were certainly very good sections taken out of the submissions and from the advice from officials that was taken up in the bill, and as a result, and also discussions with the Minister, I think the result is pretty good. It's not 100%, but like anything, it is pretty well as good as we can get in the circumstances, and it will certainly go a long way to providing what is required for such an important resource that this country has. As part of the whole economic development drive that we're all striving to get for this country to create more employment, more jobs, more opportunities, particularly more opportunities for the next generation coming through, this serves a purpose in terms of laying a framework that will help the development of the 200-mile economic exclusive zone and will ensure that there is future prosperity for this country in many respects because of the large numbers of resources and opportunities that are in our marine environment going out to the continental shelf. And when you think that the New Zealand landmass represents something like only 5% of the total area of this economic zone, we have vast amounts under our oceans out there and vast amounts of resources which we probably even today don't know all about, and where there will need to be some form of exploration and research and scientific investigation to see what is available there. Mr. Speaker, can I just, in closing, thank the members of the committee. I think all the committee members had a huge amount of input on this. It was a very collegial way that we worked through it, even though there was some disagreements for a period of time on the purpose of the Act. And we're very pleased that the purpose of the Act was changed somewhat in terms of the wording to get a slightly better balance with the environment being of a higher importance than perhaps was the initial intention of the legislation. And in that respect, we, New Zealand First, put in a minority report in the first instance with our concerns about the purpose of the Act and that we thought that the environment could suffer if it was only seen as a balance between the environment and economic development, and that the environment itself was not still uppermost in our minds, because at the end of the day, New Zealand is very fortunate being in the South Pacific where we are. We have this pristine, large part of the South Pacific on our doorstep, and it is so important for our tourism, it is so important for our pure image around the world. And so whatever economic development goes on, and whatever exploration, and whatever taking of resources goes on within that economic zone, we must always be mindful, and every New Zealander and everyone in this country must be mindful that we are guardians of such an important marine environment, and which is so important for our tourism, so important for our image, so important for the place that our people and our nation where we live, so important to Māori, so important to so many parts of our community. that if we get this right, and if it works out as we expect it will from this bill, we would expect that there are great opportunities in the future, and New Zealand will be much better for it, and as a result, all our people in this country will be better for it. So New Zealand First is very happy to support this bill, and we commend it to the House.
Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased to be speaking at the third reading